The empire was very old. It spread across 12 star systems, and billions of beings lived under its rule. They were tall and beautiful, with silver hair and pale blue skin. They lived for hundreds of years and had powers that other species could only dream of. They could feel emotions, move objects with their minds, and heal from wounds that would kill any other creature. At the center of this great empire sat Queen Nara on her crystal throne. She had ruled for 300 years, and her word was law. No one dared to question her. No one dared to disobey. She was powerful, wise, and feared by all who knew her name. But Queen Nara had a secret. Behind her cold eyes and stern face, her heart was broken. 23 years ago she had 3 daughters, was the oldest, strong, and ambitious, was the middle child, quiet and smart, and was the youngest, kind and full of light. Nara loved all her daughters but was special. She had a gentle soul that reminded Nara of herself when she was young, before war and duty had made her hard. Then disappeared. It happened during a simple mission. Was traveling near the edge of space, close to a quarantined zone around a small yellow star. The beings there called their world Earth, and they called themselves humans. They were a young species, primitive by standards. They had only recently learned to travel between stars, and the Council had decided they were too dangerous and unpredictable for contact. Ship sent a distress signal, then nothing. Nara sent her entire fleet to search. They found shuttle floating near Earth's moon. It was damaged and empty. There was no body, no message, no explanation. The princess had simply vanished. For months, Nara refused to believe her daughter was dead. She sent ship after ship into human space. She demanded answers, but she found nothing. Finally, the council told her she had to stop. The search was costing too much. The humans were getting suspicious. With a broken heart, Nara declared her youngest daughter dead. Something changed in the queen that day. The warmth left her eyes. The kindness left her voice. She became cold and hard, like the crystal walls of her palace. She closed all borders to human space permanently. Any ship that tried to enter was destroyed without warning. Any human found in territory was executed. Her people whispered that the queen had died with her daughter. Only her body remained. Years passed. Nara buried her grief in work. She conquered new systems. She crushed rebellions. She made the empire stronger than it had ever been, but she never smiled. She never laughed. She never spoke of. Her 2 remaining daughters grew up in her shadow, became a military commander, leading fleets into battle. She was ruthless and efficient, and she made no secret of her desire for the throne. Became a scientist, spending her days in laboratories studying genetics and evolution. She was gentle like had been, but she kept her gentleness hidden. The sisters did not trust each other, saw as weak, saw as dangerous. They circled each other like predators, each waiting for the other to make a mistake. As the years went on, the High Council grew worried. Queen Nara had no official heir. If she died and would tear the empire apart fighting for the throne, they begged the queen to choose a successor. She refused. "I will live forever," she told them. "I do not need an heir." But even did not live forever. Nara was old, older than any queen before her. The council members whispered among themselves. Something had to change. Commander was the head of the royal guard. He had served Nara for 200 years, and he was the closest thing she had to a friend. He watched her sit alone in her throne room, staring at nothing, and he worried. "My queen," he said one evening, "the council meets tomorrow. They will demand you choose an heir." "Let them demand," Nara said. "I am the queen. I do not answer to them." "They fear for the empire," said carefully, "and perhaps they are right to fear." Nara turned her cold eyes to him. "Do you think I am weak, old friend?" "I think you are tired," said. "I think you have been tired for 23 years." For a long moment Nara said nothing. Then she looked away. "You may leave." Bowed and walked to the door. But before he could leave, a young officer rushed in. His face was pale and his hands were shaking. "Commander, my queen, there is something you need to see." "What is it?" asked. "A ship," the officer said. "A human ship. It crossed into our space near the border." Nara's expression did not change. "Destroy it." "We were going to," the officer said, "but then we scanned it, and—" He stopped, unable to continue. "Speak," Nara commanded. "The sensors detected DNA aboard, royal DNA." The officer's voice was barely a whisper. "The genetic signature matches Princess." The throne room went silent, stared at the officer, unable to believe what he had heard. Nara sat perfectly still, her face like stone. "That is impossible," she finally said. "My daughter is dead." "The sensors do not lie, my queen," the officer said. "Someone on that ship carries your bloodline." For the first time in 23 years, something stirred behind Nara's cold eyes. It might have been hope, it might have been fear. Perhaps it was both. "Do not destroy the ship," she said, her voice strange and distant. "Bring it to station. I want to see what is inside." "Yes, my queen." As the officer hurried away, Nara gripped the arms of her throne so hard that the crystal cracked beneath her fingers. Her heart, which she had thought was dead, began to beat faster. Could it be true, after all these years? Was her daughter alive? And if she was, where had she been? What had happened to her? And why was she now returning on a human ship? The questions burned in Nara's mind. She had spent 23 years trying to forget. Now, in a single moment, everything had changed. Commander stepped closer. "My queen," he said softly, "what do you want me to do?" Nara stood slowly. Her legs felt weak, but her voice was strong. "Prepare my ship. I am going to station myself." "That could be dangerous," warned. "It could be a trap." "Perhaps," Nara said. "But if there is even a small chance that my daughter is alive, I will take any risk." She looked at, and for just a moment, he saw the woman she had been before grief destroyed her. "I have to know the truth." In her private chambers, Princess received the news with a very different reaction. Her hands trembled, but not with hope. They trembled with fear. She had thought her secret was safe. She had thought no one would ever know what she had done 23 years ago. The sabotage, the lies, the murder of her own sister. But now was coming back. And if she remembered what had happened, if she told their mother the truth, everything had worked for would be destroyed. She could not let that happen. Called for her most trusted servant. "Send a message to General," she said. "Tell him I need to speak with him immediately. Tell him it is about the succession." The servant bowed and left, walked to her window and looked out at the stars. "You should have stayed dead, little sister," she whispered. "Coming back was a mistake." Whatever it took would protect herself, even if it meant killing again. The human ship was small and old. It was called the Wanderer, and it looked like it had traveled through many storms. The metal walls were scratched and burned. The engines made strange sounds. It was a miracle the ship had made it across space at all. Station was a massive military base floating at the edge of space. Thousands of soldiers lived there, watching for enemies and guarding the border. When the Wanderer was pulled inside by tractor beams, 50 armed guards surrounded it. Commander was the first to step forward when the ship's door opened. He had his weapon ready. He did not know what to expect. A woman walked out. She was tall and beautiful, with silver hair that fell past her shoulders. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were the deep purple of royalty. She wore simple human clothes, but she carried herself like a queen. His weapon nearly fell from his hands. He had known since she was a child. He had watched her grow up. He had searched for her for years after she disappeared. And now, here she was, standing in front of him as if no time had passed at all. "Princess," he whispered. She smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. "Hello, it has been a long time." Before could respond, two small figures appeared behind. They clung to her robes, peeking out at the soldiers with wide, frightened eyes. They were children, A boy and a girl. The boy looked about 6 years old. He had his mother's silver hair, but his eyes were different. They were darker, more human. The girl was younger, perhaps 4. She had the same mix of features, silver hair and human eyes, but her expression was not frightened. She looked curious, almost excited. Stared at the children. His mind could not process what he was seeing. Could not have children with other species. It was genetically impossible. Every scientist in the Empire agreed on this. And yet here were 2 children who were clearly half and half. Something else. "These are my children," said calmly. "My son and my daughter, their father was human." A murmur ran through the soldiers. Some looked confused, others looked disgusted. The word abomination was whispered more than once. His eyes turned cold. "If anyone harms my children, they will answer to me, and then they will answer to my mother." The whispers stopped. Stepped closer, studying the children. The boy met his eyes without fear. There was something strange about the child's gaze. It felt like the boy could see inside him, could read his thoughts and feelings. "You are sad," said suddenly, "and surprised, but also happy you missed my mother." Blinked. The boy had just described his emotions perfectly. Not even the strongest empath could read feelings so quickly and accurately. "How did you do that?" asked. Shrugged. "I just can. Father said it was my gift." The little girl tugged at her mother's robe. "Mama, that man has pain in his leg. Old pain. Can I help him?" Before could answer, walked toward one of the guards. The man stepped back nervously. He had been wounded in battle years ago, and his leg had never healed properly. How could this child possibly know that? Reached up and touched his leg. Her small hands began to glow with soft white light. The guard gasped. The other soldiers raised their weapons but held up his hand to stop them. After a moment stepped back. "All better," she said happily. The guard moved his leg experimentally. His eyes went wide. "The pain is gone," he said in disbelief. "It has hurt for 15 years and now it is gone." Silence fell over the docking bay. Everyone stared at the little girl. Put her hands on her children's shoulders. "As you can see, my children are special. They have gifts that no pure possesses. Humanity gave them these gifts." She looked at. "I need to see my mother. Will you take me to her?" Nodded slowly. He still could not fully understand what was happening, but he knew one thing for certain. Queen Nara needed to see this. The journey to Prime took 3 days. Queen Nara had wanted to come to station herself, but her advisors had convinced her to wait. It was safer for the princess to come to her. And Nara, despite her desperate hope, was still afraid that this might be some kind of trick. During the journey, watched and her children closely. The princess was different from the girl he remembered. She was harder somehow, more serious. But she was also warmer. She smiled at her children constantly, played games with them, told them stories. She was a loving mother, completely devoted to her little ones. The children were remarkable, was quiet and thoughtful. He seemed to understand things that no 6-year-old should understand. He could sense when people were lying, when they were sad, when they were afraid. He used this ability not to manipulate, but to comfort. When a young soldier started crying from homesickness, sat with him and talked until the tears stopped. Was different. She was joyful and full of energy, always running around and asking questions. But she also had incredible power. She healed every small injury she found, from cuts to bruises to headaches. She seemed to do it instinctively, without thinking. "Where do these abilities come from?" asked one evening. "We do not know exactly," admitted. "Human scientists studied my children after they were born. They believe the combination of and human genes created something new, something more powerful than either species alone." "That should be impossible." Smiled. "Humans taught me that nothing is impossible. They are a remarkable species, weak individually, but their minds, their creativity, their determination. I have never seen anything like it." "You lived among them for 23 years. "Yes," Eyes grew distant. At first I wanted to come home. I sent signals, tried to repair my ship, but no one came. After a few years I stopped trying. She paused. And then I met Minyu, the children's father. Yes, his voice became soft. He was a doctor. He found me when I crashed and took care of me. He was not afraid of me even though I was an alien. He was curious and kind. He taught me about humans, about their world, about their way of thinking. She smiled sadly. I fell in love with him. Where is he now? The smile faded. Dead 2 years ago. There were humans who feared me, who hated me for being different. They attacked our home. Minyu fought them to give me time to escape with the children. He killed 3 of them before they killed him. Was silent for a moment. I am sorry. So am I. Looked out the window at the stars. But Minyu would not want me to live in sadness. He always said that life was too short for grief. Even for humans who live such brief lives, he believed every day should be full of joy. She turned back to, that is why I came back. My children deserve to know their family, and my mother deserves to know that I am alive. When the ship finally reached Prime, stood at the window and looked at her home world. The crystal cities gleamed in the sunlight. The purple ocean stretched across the continents. It was beautiful, just as she remembered. Mama, it is so pretty, said, pressing her face against the glass. It is, agreed. This is where I grew up. This is where your grandmother lives. Will she like us? Asked quietly. Looked at her son. She saw the worry in his eyes, the fear that he and his sister would be rejected. She knelt down and took his hands. I do not know, she said honestly. Your grandmother is very old and very powerful. She has beliefs about how things should be. But I know that she loved me more than anything. And when she sees you, when she understands what wonderful children you are, I believe she will love you too. And if she does not, asked, pulled both her children into her arms. Then we will leave and never come back. You are my family. Nothing is more important than you. Nothing. The ship landed in the palace courtyard. Thousands had gathered to watch. They had heard the rumors, the impossible stories of the returned princess and her hybrid children. They wanted to see for themselves. Took a deep breath, held her children's hands and walked down the ramp. The crowd gasped when they saw her. Then they saw the children and the gasps turned to whispers of shock and confusion. Ignored them all. She walked forward with her head held high toward the great doors of the palace. Queen Nara waited inside, sitting on her crystal throne. Her daughters stood on either side of her. The throne room was filled with nobles and council members, all watching with hungry eyes. When entered, Nara rose slowly to her feet. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands were trembling. Mother said, her voice echoing through the silent hall. Nara's voice cracked on the name. Is it really you? It is, released her children's hands and walked toward the throne. I am sorry I was gone so long. I tried to come back, but I could not, and then I had reasons to stay. Nara's eyes moved to the children. Those are your and their father was a human named Minyu. He is dead now, but he was the best man I have ever known. A terrible silence filled the room. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see how the queen would react. Then Princess stepped forward. Her face was twisted with disgust. This is unacceptable, she said loudly. Those creatures are abominations, half-breeds. They should be executed immediately, along with anyone who has been contaminated by human filth. Little began to cry, stepped in front of his sister, his small face determined. We are not monsters, he said, his voice clear and strong. We are children, and you, he looked directly at, you are afraid. You are hiding something, something dark, something about my mother. His face went pale. How dare you speak to me, you little freak? But Nara was not listening too. She was walking down the steps of her throne, moving toward her lost daughter and her. Tears were falling from her eyes, the first tears she had shed in 23 years. She stopped in front of and reached out to touch her face. "My daughter," she whispered, "my precious daughter, you are alive." "Yes," Mother said, her own tears falling. "I am alive and I have come home." Nara pulled into her arms and held her tight. The queen of the empire wept like a child, and for that moment nothing else mattered. But standing in the shadows, watched with cold fury in her eyes. This was not over, not by far. The palace was quiet that night but could not sleep. She sat in her old bedroom, a room she had not seen in 23 years. Everything was exactly as she had left it. Her mother had kept it like a shrine, a place of memory and grief. Her children slept in a small bed beside her, had his arm around, protecting her even in his dreams. They looked so peaceful, so innocent. They had no idea how much danger they were in. A knock came at the door. Tensed, but it was only. Her sister stood in the doorway, looking uncertain. "May I come in?" asked. Nodded, entered, and sat on a chair across from her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "I thought you were dead," finally said. "I cried for years. Mother changed after you disappeared. She became someone I did not recognize." "I know," said. "I can see it in her eyes. The warmth is gone." "It came back tonight," said. "When she held you, I saw my mother again for the first time in 2 decades. She paused. "Your children, they are remarkable." Smiled, "They are everything to me." "How is it possible? Our scientists always said could not have children with other species." "Our scientists were wrong, or perhaps they never really tried." Looked at her sleeping children. "Humans are special. They are not as strong or as long-lived as us, but there is something in them. A spark, a creativity, a will to survive that is unlike anything I have ever seen. When my genes combined with Minu's, something new was created, something better." Leaned forward, her scientist's mind clearly fascinated. "I would like to study them. With your permission, of course. I want to understand how their abilities work." "You may study them gently," said, "but you will not treat them like experiments. They are children, not specimens." "Of course," hesitated. "Sister, I must warn you, is dangerous." She was angry tonight, but I have never seen that kind of fear in her eyes before. "Your son said she was hiding something. I believe him." His expression darkened. "When my shuttle crashed 23 years ago, it was not an accident. Someone sabotaged my ship. I never found proof, but I always suspected." Went pale. "You think she tried to kill you?" "I think she wanted me out of the way. She always wanted to be queen. With me gone, she was one step closer to the throne." His voice was cold. "If she did it once, she will try again. This time she will go after my children." Mother would never allow that. Mother is powerful but has friends. The traditionalist faction on the council hates humans. They will see my children as monsters, as threats to purity." Stood and walked to the window. "I did not come back to start a war. I came back for peace, for family. But if forces me to fight, I will fight." The next morning, Queen Nara called a private meeting in her chambers. Only, and the queen herself were present. The children were being watched by trusted servants. "Tell me everything," Nara said, "from the beginning." So told her story. She told her mother about the shuttle malfunction, about crashing on Earth, about being found by Minu. She told her about the years she spent living as a refugee, hiding from humans who feared aliens and from governments who wanted to capture her. She told her about falling in love, about getting married in a small ceremony with only Minu's family present. She told her about the joy of having children, about watching them grow, about discovering their incredible abilities. And she told her mother about Minu's death, how he had fought to protect their family, how he had died in her arms, smiling, telling her that he had no regrets. By the time she finished, tears were streaming down Nara's face. The queen had not cried so much in centuries. "This human," Nara said slowly, "this Minu, he sounds like a good man." "He was the best man I have ever known," said. "He was not strong like he could not live for centuries or move objects with his mind. But he had a strength that we lack, Mother, a strength of spirit. He taught me that power is not just about force. It is about sacrifice, about protecting those you love, about standing for what is right even when it costs you everything. Nara was silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. I closed the borders to human space because of you. I blamed them for taking you from me. I hated them for 23 years. She looked at her daughter. And now you tell me that a human gave you the greatest gifts of your life. Your children, your love, your happiness. Yes, said. You were wrong about them, mother, we all were. Perhaps. Nara stood and walked to her window looking out at her empire. But others will not see it that way. The council will demand answers, will cause trouble. There are many who believe humans are inferior, dangerous, unworthy of contact. And what do you believe? Nara turned back to her daughter. I believe that my are beautiful. I believe that they have powers we do not understand. And I believe, she paused, struggling with the words, I believe that if a human could create such love in my daughter's heart, perhaps I have been wrong about many things. The door burst open. A servant ran in, breathless and terrified. My queen, Princess has called an emergency session of the High Council. She is presenting charges against Princess. Nara's face turned to stone. What charges? Mental corruption by human contact. She says Princess is no longer fit to be part of the royal family, and she says, the servant swallowed hard. She says the children must be destroyed as genetic abominations. Felt cold fury rise in her chest. She would not dare. She has already done it, the servant said. The council is meeting right now. Nara grabbed her royal robes. Come, we will end this. The council chamber was packed when they arrived. Hundreds of nobles and officials had gathered to witness the drama, stood at the center of the room, addressing the crowd with passion and fire. These half-breeds are a threat to everything we stand for, she was saying. Their very existence is an insult to purity, and my sister has been corrupted by 2 decades among savages. She is not the princess we once knew. She is a danger to our empire. Enough! Nara's voice cut through the room like a blade. Everyone fell silent as the queen marched to her throne, closed behind. Smiled coldly. Mother, how good of you to join us. You had no right to call this council without my permission, Nara said. The charter allows any royal family member to call an emergency session if they believe the empire is in danger. Spread her arms. I believe the empire is in danger. These hybrid creatures could be carrying human diseases. They could be spies. At the very least, they are a symbol of contamination that will weaken our people's resolve. They are children, shouted. They are 6 and 4 years old. What threat could they possibly pose? The threat of precedent, an old council member said. He was lord, leader of the traditionalist faction. If we accept these half-breeds as royalty, what comes next? More mixing with lesser species, the dilution of our blood, the end of everything that makes us. Murmurs of agreement ran through the crowd. Could see that many in the room shared these fears. They looked at her with suspicion and disgust. Princess stepped forward. If I may speak. She waited for Nara's nod, then continued. I have studied the children's genetic material. What I found was remarkable. Their hybrid genome is not weaker than ours. It is stronger. They have abilities that no pure possesses. The boy's empathic powers exceed anything we have recorded. The girl can heal in ways that should be impossible. If anything, these children represent an evolution, not a corruption. Evolution toward what? Demanded. Toward becoming more human. That is not evolution, that is extinction. The argument went back and forth. Some supported, many supported. The queen listened in silence, her face unreadable. Finally, Lord raised his hand. There is only one way to settle this. I invoke the trial of blood. Gasps filled the chamber, even looked surprised. The trial of blood was ancient, older than the empire itself. It was a combat ritual used to decide the most serious disputes. The accuser would choose a champion. The accused would fight. If the accused won, they were innocent. If they lost, they died. along with anyone under their protection. "You cannot be serious," said. "I am completely serious," replied. "Let the gods decide. If Princess wins, her children will be accepted as royalty. If she loses," he smiled cruelly, "the abominations will be dealt with." His heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. "And if I refuse to fight?" "Then you admit guilt. The sentence will be the same." Everyone looked at Queen Nara. By ancient law, she could not stop the trial once it was invoked. She could not protect her daughter or her. All she could do was watch. Nara said quietly, "You do not have to do this. Take your children and leave. Go back to human space. I will not stop you." Looked at her mother. Then she looked at smug face. Then she thought of Minyu, who had died fighting for their family. "No," she said, "I will not run, I will fight." She turned to face the council. "I accept the trial of blood. Choose your champion. I will be ready." Stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with triumph. "I choose General. He has never lost a duel in 300 years. He will show everyone what happens to those who betray our people." Met her sister's eyes without fear. "We will see, sister, we will see." In 3 days, she would fight for her children's lives. In 3 days, everything would be decided. She only hoped that Minyu's lessons would be enough to save them. The Arena of Ancestors was the most sacred place in the Empire. It was carved from living crystal that glowed with inner light. For 10,000 years, the greatest disputes had been settled here through combat. Kings had won their crowns in this arena. Traitors had died on its floor. The walls were stained with the blood of heroes and villains alike. Today, it was packed with spectators. Every noble family in the empire had sent representatives. Common citizens filled the upper galleries. All 12 star systems watched through broadcast screens. Everyone wanted to see the impossible, a princess fighting for the right of half-human children to exist. Stood in the preparation chamber beneath the arena. She wore simple combat clothes, nothing like the ceremonial armor most chose for the trial. She had refused all weapons except a single staff made of wood, a human material that her opponents found laughable. Commander watched her stretch and move through fighting stances. He had never seen anything like it. Her movements were strange, unpredictable, completely unlike traditional combat techniques. "What style is this?" he asked. "Many styles," replied. "Minyu taught me some. Others I learned from teachers on Earth. Humans have thousands of ways to fight. They have been perfecting combat for millions of years, passing knowledge from generation to generation. Their techniques are designed for beings weaker than their enemies, beings who must rely on speed, intelligence, and surprise rather than pure strength. General has trained for 3 centuries. He is the greatest warrior in the Empire." "I know," stopped moving and looked at. "But warriors are trained to fight other. They follow rules and traditions. They are predictable." She smiled grimly. "Humans have a saying, the best way to win a fight is to cheat. You would cheat in the trial of blood. There is no cheating in survival. There is only winning and losing. My children's lives depend on me winning. I will do whatever it takes." The door opened. Little ran in, followed by Queen Nara. The children threw themselves into their mother's arms. "Mama, I am scared," whispered. Held her tight. "I know, baby, but I need you to be brave. Can you do that for me?" Nodded, tears in her eyes. Looked up at his mother with serious eyes. "I can feel the man you are going to fight. He is strong, but he is also proud. He thinks he cannot lose. That is his weakness." Smiled and kissed her son's forehead. "You are so smart, just like your father." Nara stepped forward. Her face was calm, but her hands were shaking. "By law, I cannot interfere in the trial. I cannot help you or save you if you fall. You know this." "I know. I have watched hundreds of trials in my lifetime. I have seen the greatest warriors in our history fight and die in that arena." Nara's voice cracked. "I cannot lose you again. I cannot." "Then believe in me, mother," took Nara's hands. "Believe in what humans taught me. Believe in love. Drums began to pound. The trial was about to begin. Kissed her children one last time, handed them to Nara, and walked through the doors into the arena. The crowd's roar was deafening, walked to the center of the crystal floor and looked up at the thousands of faces staring down at her. Some showed hatred, some showed pity, a few showed hope. At the far end of the arena, General emerged. He was massive, even for a. His silver hair was tied back, and his pale blue skin was covered in the scars of countless battles. He carried a sword that was taller than, made of crystal that could cut through stone. He walked toward her slowly, his eyes full of contempt. "So this is the princess who loves humans," he said loudly so the crowd could hear. "Look at her. No armor, a wooden stick for a weapon. She is already defeated." The crowd laughed, said nothing. She simply watched him, studying his movements, looking for weaknesses. Princess sat in the royal box, directly across from Queen Nara. She was smiling, confident that her champion would win easily. "The rules of the trial are simple," a herald announced. "Combat continues until one fighter yields or dies. No outside interference is permitted. Let the gods judge the truth." Raised his sword. "Any last words, princess?" Lifted her wooden staff. "Yes, my husband taught me that strength is not just power, it is heart. You have no heart, general, that is why you will lose." Laughed. "We will see." He attacked. His speed was incredible. His sword came down like lightning, aimed its head. Any normal fighter would have died instantly. But was not there. She moved sideways at the last possible moment, letting the blade pass within inches of her face. Before could recover, she struck him hard across the ribs with her staff. He grunted in surprise. The blow had actually hurt him. "First blood," said calmly. The crowd went silent. No one had ever landed a hit on so quickly. Surprise turned to anger. He attacked again, faster and harder. His blade became a blur of crystal death, striking from every direction. Ducked, dodged, and weaved, always moving, never staying in one place. She was not fighting him, she was frustrating him. Every time he attacked, she slipped away. Every time he thought he had her, she was gone. And between his strikes, she hit back with quick, precise blows to his joints, his throat, his eyes. None of the hits were fatal, but they were painful and humiliating. "Stand still and fight," roared. "Why?" asked. "So you can kill me, no thank you." She smiled, and he saw something in her eyes that terrified him. She was not afraid. She was enjoying this. Humans had taught her well. The fight continued for what felt like hours. Was stronger but was faster. He had more training, but she had more creativity. Every time he adapted to one of her techniques, she showed him something new. A kick to the back of his knee, an elbow to his nose, a sweep that sent him crashing to the ground. The crowd began to murmur. Some were starting to cheer for the princess. In the royal box, Smile had disappeared. This was not going as planned. Finally, managed to catch with a powerful blow. His fist connected with her shoulder, sending her flying across the arena. She hit the crystal wall hard and fell to the ground. The crowd gasped. Queen Nara stood up, her face white. Walked toward slowly, his sword raised. "Enough games," he said. "Time to die, princess." Coughed blood, her shoulder was dislocated. The pain was incredible, but she thought of her children, of their innocent faces, of their fear. She thought of Minyu fighting 3 men to give her time to escape. He had never given up. Neither would she. She forced herself to stand. "I'm not done yet," she said. Struck, dodged, he struck again, she dodged again, but this time she was slower. The pain was affecting her movement, he was gaining ground. Finally, he caught her. His hand closed around her throat and he lifted her off the ground. His sword pressed against her chest. "Yield," he said. "Yield and I will make your death quick. Your children will not suffer." Looked into his eyes. She saw triumph there and cruelty. He would not show mercy to her children. He never intended to. But she also saw something else. Hesitation. Deep down, some part of him knew that killing a princess, even a disgraced one, was wrong. She had one chance. "You hesitate," she whispered. "Why?" His grip loosened slightly. "I do not hesitate." "Yes, you do, because you know this is wrong. You know my children are innocent. You know is using you." Silence. "There is honor in you, General, somewhere. You were a good man once. Is this what you have become, a murderer of children?" For just a moment his eyes flickered. His grip loosened further. It was enough. Head butted him with all her remaining strength. His nose broke with a satisfying crack. She twisted free of his grip and grabbed his sword arm. Using a technique Minyu had taught her, something humans called, she leveraged his own weight against him. His arm bent at an impossible angle. He screamed and dropped his sword. Caught the crystal blade before it hit the ground and pressed it against his throat. The arena went completely silent. Yield said. Stared at her in disbelief. He had lost. For the first time in 3 centuries, he had lost. Yield repeated, "Or die." Slowly, painfully, lowered his head. "I yield." The crowd exploded. Some were cheering, some were crying, some sat in stunned silence. But was not finished. She stepped back from but kept the sword in her hand. She turned to face the crowd, her voice ringing through the arena. "I could kill him," she said. "That is what tradition demands. He lost. His life is mine, but I will not take it." She threw the sword down at his feet. "This is what humans taught me. Mercy is not weakness. It is the greatest strength. Killing your enemies is easy. Forgiving them is hard. But forgiveness is what separates the great from the powerful." She looked up at her mother, at her children, at the thousands of watching faces. "My children are not monsters. They are miracles. They carry the best of 2 worlds inside them. If you destroy them, you destroy the future. But if you accept them, if you learn from them, the empire will become stronger than it has ever been." Silence. Then from the royal box, Princess screamed. Her voice was full of rage and fear. "This is lies. This is human manipulation. She should have died 23 years ago. I should have made sure she was dead." The words echoed through the arena. Everyone heard them. Everyone understood. Queen Nara rose to her feet, her face terrible in its fury. "What did you say?" Realized her mistake too late. In her anger, she had revealed her secret. She had confessed to trying to kill her own sister. "Mother, I did not mean." "You sabotaged her ship," Nara said, her voice cold as ice. "You tried to murder your own sister, and then, for 23 years, you let me grieve. You watched me suffer, and you said nothing." Fell to her knees. "Mother, please." "Guards!" Nara's command echoed through the arena. "Arrest Princess for attempted murder and treason against the royal family." As the guards dragged away, screaming and crying, finally allowed herself to collapse. The pain was overwhelming, but she had done it. She had won. Her children were safe. Her family was whole again. And everything was about to change. 3 weeks had passed since the trial of blood. His wounds had healed, thanks to medicine and her daughter's gift. She stood on the balcony of her chambers, looking out at the crystal city of Prime as the sun set over the purple ocean. So much had changed. Princess had been tried before the High Council. The evidence against her was overwhelming. She had confessed to sabotaging shuttle 23 years ago. She had admitted to planning attacks against her own family. She had revealed connections to extremist groups that wanted to start a war with humanity. The sentence was exile. Would spend the rest of her very long life on a barren moon at the edge of the empire, alone except for her guards. She would never see her home again. She would never sit on the throne she had killed for. As she was dragged from the courtroom, had looked back at with pure hatred. "This is not over," she had said. "One day you will regret letting me live." Had simply nodded. "Maybe, but I would rather live with regret than become what you are, a murderer." Now, as she watched the sunset, felt a strange peace. She had survived. Her children had survived. For the first time in years, she could breathe without fear. A knock came at the door. Princess entered, holding a folder full of papers. "The genetic research is complete," said excitedly. "Sister, you have to see this." She spread the papers across a table. Charts, graphs, and images filled the pages. Did not understand most of it, but its enthusiasm was infectious. "Your children are remarkable," explained. "The combination of and human DNA has created something entirely new. Its empathic abilities are 10 times stronger than any pure empath. He can not only read emotions but project them. He could calm an entire army with his mind. And, even more incredible, her healing ability works at the cellular level. She can cure diseases that our best doctors cannot touch. Given time and training, she might even be able to extend life itself." Sat down, overwhelmed. "I knew they were special, but I did not realize." "They are not just special. They are the next step in evolution. If more and humans had children together, who knows what abilities might emerge? The possibilities are endless." "You sound like you want to encourage such unions." Smiled. "I am a scientist. I follow the evidence. And the evidence tells me that humanity is not a threat to be quarantined. They are a partner species. Together, we could become something greater than either of us alone." Looked at her sister. Had always been quiet, staying in the background while and competed for attention, but now saw a different woman. A brilliant, passionate woman who might change the empire more than any warrior ever could. "You should present this research to Mother," said. "I intend to, tomorrow." That night Queen Nara called a private dinner. Only she and the children attended. It was the first time the family had been together without politics or conflict. Was excited about everything. She ran around the dining room, touching the crystal walls and laughing at the way they sparkled. Was more reserved, but he smiled more than had seen in a long time. Nara watched her with wonder in her eyes. She had been afraid of them at first. They were strange, different, part alien. But now, seeing them play and laugh, she only felt love. "Grandmother," said, climbing into Nara's lap, "your leg hurts, I can feel it." Nara blinked in surprise. "How did you know? I have not spoken of it." "I just know," put her small hands on Nara's knee. "It is old pain, very old. Can I help?" Nara hesitated. The wound was 300 years old, from a battle before she was queen. It had never healed properly. Every day she felt a dull ache that reminded her of her mortality. "If you wish," she said softly. Closed her eyes. Her hands began to glow with soft white light. The light spread through Nara's leg, warm and gentle. After a moment it faded. Nara moved her leg experimentally. The pain was gone. For the first time in 3 centuries, the pain was completely gone. Tears filled her eyes. How is this possible?" Shrugged. "I just want people to not hurt, so I make them better." Nara pulled her granddaughter into her arms and held her tight. Over shoulder she looked at. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for bringing them to me." Smiled. "Thank you for accepting them." "I was a fool to ever doubt." Nara released and stood up. Her movements were stronger, more fluid than they had been in decades. "Tomorrow I will address the Empire. Things are going to change." The next morning, Queen Nara stood before the High Council and the people of the Empire. Broadcast screens carried her image to every corner of 12 star systems. Billions watched and listened. "For 23 years I closed our borders to humanity," Nara said. "I blamed them for taking my daughter from me. I feared them. I hated them. I was wrong." The crowd murmured. This was not what they expected to hear from their queen. "My daughter lived among humans for 2 decades. She fell in love with a human man. She had children with him. Those children stand beside me today, and they are not monsters. They are not abominations. They are miracles." She gestured to Anne, who stood nervously at her side. Stood behind them, her hand on shoulder. These children have gifts that no pure possesses. They can heal wounds that our doctors cannot touch. They can read emotions with perfect clarity. They are the proof that humanity is not our enemy. They are our future. Nara's voice grew stronger. Today I am opening the borders. Human space is no longer quarantined. Trade, diplomacy, cultural exchange, all will begin immediately. We will learn from humanity and they will learn from us. Together, we will build a future that neither of us could create alone. Silence filled the council chamber. Then, slowly, people began to clap. The applause spread through the room, then through the city, then across the empire. Not everyone agreed. The traditionalists were angry and afraid, but they were no longer the majority. Change was coming, whether they liked it or not. That evening was summoned to her mother's private chambers. Nara sat by the window, looking tired but happy. "I have a task for you," Nara said. "The first human delegation will arrive in 1 week. They are nervous, uncertain. They know that we quarantined them for generations. They do not know if they can trust us." "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to be our ambassador to humanity. You are the only who truly understands them. You lived as one of them. You loved one of them. You are the bridge between our worlds." Considered the offer. It was a huge responsibility, but it was also what Minyu would have wanted. He had always dreamed of a day when humans and could meet as equals, as friends. "I accept," she said. Nara smiled and took her daughter's hand. "I am proud of you. I am proud of the woman you have become. I only wish I could have seen it sooner." "We cannot change the past, Mother. We can only build the future." 1 week later, stood on the palace balcony with her children. Above them, 3 human ships broke through the clouds and descended toward the landing field. They were small compared to vessels, but they were beautiful in their own way. Pointed excitedly, "Father's people, they came." Felt tears in her eyes. She thought of Minyu, of his kindness, his courage, his dream of a united galaxy. He had not lived to see this day, but in a way he had made it possible. His love had created 2 children who had changed an empire. "They are not just father's people," said, pulling her children close. "They are our people, all of us, and human together." The ships landed. Doors opened. Humans stepped out, looking nervously at the crystal towers and the alien beings watching them. At the front of the delegation was an old woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She was the president of Earth's United Nations, the leader of humanity's first official contact mission. Walked down the steps to greet her. The 2 women faced each other, one human, one alien. The whole galaxy was watching. "Welcome to Prime," said. "My name is, I once lived on your world. I loved one of your people. I have come home to build a bridge between our species." The president smiled. "We are honored to be here, Princess. We have heard stories of your courage, of your children, of your husband who died a hero." She reached out and took his hands. "Minyu would be proud of you." Tears fell freely now. "You knew him." "Everyone on Earth knows him now. He is a hero to us. The man who loved an alien princess and gave her children, who changed the stars." The president looked up at the sky. "We came here to honor his memory, to make his dream come true." Looked back at her mother standing on the balcony with And. Nara nodded, and even from this distance could see that her mother was crying too. "Then let us begin," said. "Let us build that future together." She led the human delegation into the palace, into a new era of peace and cooperation. Behind her, held his grandmother's hand and watched with eyes that saw beyond the present, into a future full of hope. "Will there be more children like us?" he asked. "More children with inhuman parents?" Nara smiled down at her grandson. "I believe there will be, many of them." "Good," said. "They will need friends." Laughed and grabbed her brother's other hand. "We can be their friends. We can show them how to use their gifts." And in that moment, standing in the heart of an ancient empire that was finally opening to the stars, a new story began. A story of 2 species, once separated by fear, coming together through love. Minu had died for this dream, had fought for it, and would live to see it flourish. The galaxy would never be the same again, and that was exactly as it should be. Humanity, as always, had found a way to change everything.